Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Weekly Orbit. We've got this week's headlines for Rocket Pool, the week ending the 2nd of June, 2023. My name is Pat, and my co-host Wack from the Rocket Fuel podcast. This week's headlines include Lido dominance, can it be overcome? Dappnode has integrated Rocket Pool, which should benefit solo stakers. Our ETH bridging on Hop is now live. And finally, Aave emode is also live. All this in weekly stats, but first, Wack, looks like you got into a fight with a pair of scissors and you lost.
Yeah,
Got a nice haircut.
It took it all off. So yeah,
Looking good, looking good.
thank you so much.
So we got a full show this week. So without delaying any further, I'm going to share our screen. Our stats for the month. I tweeted this out. Rocket Pool had a record month of May. Deposits saw almost a 5x increase over the largest month pre-Shapella or Atlas. So May of 2023, we had over 140,000 ETH deposited into the deposit pool. That kind of sets the stage here for our stats. So for we're here at the Rocket Scan website, and we're looking at deposits by date. And as you see, Wack, 140,000 for May. It was it was a real burner. What do you think?
Absolutely amazing. Like by any objective measure you use, that is like a truly phenomenal month of deposits. It's just kind of mind-boggling just how great that is, right? Because we've pretty much doubled our deposit amounts in 1 month compared, well, just over 1 month, like in 2 months, pretty much we've doubled where we were compared to like a year and nearly a half of Rocket Pool's growth before that. It's like Rocket Pool's growth has just been absolutely phenomenal this last month, and it just shows like every day in May had over 1,000 ETH deposited, and like multiple days over 10,000. Yesterday we had our second biggest day ever. Sorry, on May 31st we had our second biggest day ever. Yesterday we had over 10,000 again. It's just non-stop. Like this is really wonderful to see how this is growing. Like it's been phenomenal, truly phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, on an annual basis, if I did the math in my head right, it's maybe a 1.5 million ETH
Yeah,
on an annual basis, which is fantastic.
I don't think we'll keep that momentum going. I hope we keep the momentum going, like it would be absolutely amazing if we did. I think if we ended up with like somewhere around 1.5 million total ETH locked in the protocol, that would be phenomenal. That would like take us to about 750,000. No, actually more than that now, right? Because of LEB8s. So maybe like up to a million rETH by the end of the year. Right now we're on 410,000. So it's possible if we have good growth into the next few months and keep this momentum going. I think that would be a really good place to be, like at around 1.5 million total ETH staked in Rocket Pool. That would be fantastic. Anything more than that would just be a dream come true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what has this done to RPL price? Well, on the week, we started at a ratio of 0.0256. Right now we're at 0.0261.
Yeah.
So it's maybe about a 2%. We've been crabbing along here for a while, kind of just like the price of ETH.
Yeah. And I think like that's really good, right? Because we are showing that this is a solid place for the value of RPL. And I hope that this kind of becomes like the new 0.011, because that's where we kind of crabbed around for quite a while. There were moments where we went below that, we went above that, but crabbing like, double the price above that for a while, like it just shows that people think that this is the value of the RPL token, and the utility it unlocks is kind of makes sense at this point.
Right.
Of course, as we get more and more people staking with Rocket Pool, then that demand for the RPL token goes up, and that's when hopefully we'll get another burst of growth in the coming months. But I've been trying to temper people, right? Like temper the expectations by saying, just because RPL's done so well so far, Rocket Pool, the protocol, can continue to strongly grow without the RPL price going up, because we can keep minting more and more rETH without a single new RPL token being added to the staking pool. So that's something definitely to keep in mind. But like Rocket Pool has just had the RPL token has just had the most amazing like couple of years. And it really like is really, really wonderful to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the few DeFi tokens out there that has real utility, right? You need it to stake with Rocket Pool, and there seems to be a lot of price support right now, right around 0.026.
Yeah.
So it's good to see. It's got strength.
Yeah.
And that brings us to Lido, and how after over a month of Chapella and a couple of weeks after Lido V2 went live,
Yeah.
how is the liquid staking market lining up? So I'm on the Dune Analytics dashboard for Lido Finance.
Yeah.
For those listening, we've got a chart that's mostly purple, which is Lido. And if we scroll, we started, I would say, right before Chapella. It says here, Lido had, oh, I'm sorry, no, that's 2022. Let's go to April 18th or so. April 17th, Lido is at 74.6% dominance, and right now they are at 75.5% or so. There's a couple of different ways to measure this. Ethan Hughes had a tweet earlier this week. He said, updated LSD market share 6 weeks post Ethereum Chapella hard fork. It shows Lido Finance at minus 0.84%, Rocket Pool up about 33%, and there's a few others there. And here's another chart. This is from, I think it's also from Ethan. And it's just a pie chart showing here, Lido with about 74%. Rocket Pool is at about 7.69%. So this is going to be, we talked about this on previous podcasts, how this is going to be a long fight. Not a fight, I don't want to put it those terms, but it's going to take a while. Lido's dominance is strong. Do you have any takes on this?
Yeah. Like I talked about it in Rocket Fuel this week, like a couple of days ago, I think on Wednesday's episode or Tuesday's episode. I was actually really upset. Like, and I kind of apologized to my listeners and viewers, right? Like I said that recently I've been like super hype merchant, and like I said, there's all this amazing stuff that's coming, and like it's like really hyping like the impact it's going to have on Rocket Pool, the protocol. Couple of things that I mentioned were like Lido allowing on staking, and like some percentage of that might come to Rocket Pool. I talked about Aave's emode being activated that we'll be talking about later in the episode. I also talked about Ledger. And sadly, it seems like this, like right now talking about the Lido part of it, it's just hasn't quite happened in the way that I was hoping or expecting it to happen. Like I was expecting like a huge amount of people to leave Lido and like go to other places. But I didn't expect like this few people to leave Lido and not go anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like I was expecting that maybe 30, 40, 50, maybe 100,000 ETH on a good day might leave for other places. I think we've seen like 10,000 maybe come to Rocket Pool, which is way less than like my base hope, basically, like not any analysis or anything. Of course, it was just a hope. So I was kind of disappointed about that. As this whole Lido discussion has been front and center these last few days, and like on crypto Twitter, and like people have been really talking about it and like really, really passionate about it. What we've seen is that there aren't that many other good services for people to leave Lido and go to. There's Rocket Pool, and Rocket Pool has bottlenecks on its growth, right? Like with node operators, like right now the queue is down to about 800 mini pools, whereas a few weeks ago it was up to like 2,500 mini pools. So we're kind of eating through that queue, and the queue's not growing again. There's some hope that whales will let the community go first, and then they'll join the queue after that. Thomas G, who has 900 mini pools, has said that he's waiting to do that himself, which would be amazing because that would maximize the queue again. But in the meantime, there's not any other place for Lido stakers to take their ETH really that is better than Lido, right? Like in a sense, like the main problem with Lido is that it's just too big, and the Lido governance has no interest in making that the case that it's not too big. And they voted 99.9% in favor of not restricting themselves. Sadly, the other solutions out there, like Coinbase, that's more centralized than Lido, even Binance, that's more centralized than Lido. the Frax ETH, that's more centralized than Lido.
Right.
Rocket Pool, of course, is more decentralized than Lido, and that's one of the things that's like really shown strong growth. But we desperately need other staking services to come online. Like we need Stader to come online with like max decentralization bent. We need Stakewise version 3 to come online with their ideas of decentralized staking. Once these services start coming online, I'm really hoping that it'll be slowly will take more and more market share away from Lido. That's what we can hope, that moving into the medium and longer term is that this happens like gradually, instead of there being like big explosive movements right as the withdrawals went live.
Right. Yeah, there's more friction here than, when we had Ethereum had this discussion regarding client diversity, switching from say Prism to a minority client. And that's just a couple of clicks, a few command lines, and you're kind of done. With this, if you're a big Lido depositor, there's tax consequences of withdrawing and switching. You're thinking about, is there liquidity? Is there, if I deposit 20,000 ETH into Rocket Pool, can it absorb it, or any of these other alternative liquid staking providers? So there's friction there. There's a thought process. There's tax consequences. So it's a little different than diversity of clients. And so, we've talked about this reshuffling is going to take a while. But the fact is, Lido, right, they're about flat. They haven't grown much. They haven't lost much. Rocket Pool is gaining. One question I had was, the Rocket Pool community signaled a few months back through a vote to self-cap itself at 22%. Was that 22% of total ETH staked, or 22% of liquid staking ETH?
No, it's totally ETH staked. So this, I like last year, Superfizz had this idea of there being like, if you are at 66% of the network, like you can do really, really bad things, which is what the issue with geth was, and Prism before that, right? If you're at 33% of the network, like issues happening in your service or your software can cause really bad consequences for the beacon chain. It can still carry on, but it won't be fun times for anyone. We wouldn't be finalizing, like that kind of stuff is what would happen. So the idea was that any service would cap themselves way below that 33% point, and to the idea that like it would take multiple services, like 4 services, to hit that 66% point. So that's where Fizz came up with that 22% number. Other numbers have been like Vitalik saying about 15%, other people saying like 15, somewhere between 15 and 22% is kind of like the sweet spot. So that was that target. The way that Rocket Pool will do it is as we see that we're growing, once we start hitting that 15, 16, 17%, that's when we'll start telling people that don't come to Rocket Pool, go to Stakewise version 3, or go to Stader, or go to any other decentralized service, as long as they're meeting the criteria that we as a community set. We have a high bar, right? At that point, we'll start saying go to the other services. Once we hit 22%, then there'll be a much harder cap of how that will happen. We might stop deposits. You can't really stop deposits because it's like immutable and permissionless, but we could like increase the commission fee like drastically to make it not appealing to go to Rocket Pool, like etc. like that. So there's certain ways that we can do that. But then those are discussions that will come through once we're hitting those higher percentages. At the moment, it's not. No,
Rocket Pool right now is what, 3%, maybe 4%, and Lido is around 33% of total ETH stake. So
exactly,
Rocket Pool has a lot of runway here to grow, but the concern is Lido at already a third of the ETH network, ETH deposit network. And Danny Ryan, one of the core developers, tweeted out his concern earlier this week. So this is going to be a long discussion we're going to have in future episodes, future months ahead.
Absolutely.
Moving on, we've got some headlines. Dappnode, which is they have software that runs on a staking box. For those out there, if you're looking to solo stake, you can buy a box computer that's going to already have software on it that's ready to go, kind of make the staking process a little easier. And they now have implemented a Rocket Pool integration. So if you buy a Dappnode box, you can decide, hey, I want to stick with Rocket Pool, and they've integrated. So that's one of these infrastructure things for Rocket Pool that is good for the long run. This will end up getting more folks who are staking at home to stake with Rocket Pool.
Yeah, the great thing about Dappnode is that it's open source software. So you can buy hardware from them that comes with the software, but you can also just flash your computer that you have with their software as well. So it just becomes a Dappnode device. Within that, then it's it's a graphical user interface for staking. So it's just like you click buttons. There isn't like any command line stuff that you need to do to get that information and get your stake up and running. And now they have Rocket Pool built in natively. So you can run a Rocket Pool node in your Dappnode system. So it's fantastic for integration.
Yeah, that's great news. Another headline this week was we talked about on a prior episode, Hop, the bridge protocol, has now integrated rETH into its bridging network. What this means is you can transfer rETH back and forth from mainnet to Arbitrum or Optimism. It's the first cross-chain bridge supporting any liquid staking token. So we're out front. You can't do this with STETH. You can do this with rETH.
Yep.
This is another infrastructure improvement. It means you can move. Normally with a bridge, you got to wait 7 days on an optimistic bridge. This you can do it immediately using Hop. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so depositing to optimistic bridge can take like 2 epochs, basically 15 minutes. It can happen quicker than that as well. It's bringing it back to mainnet that can take 7 days.
Yeah.
The great thing about layer 2s is that just holding the rETH token gives you staking rewards, right? Because it accrues against ETH over time. So this will now open up holding ETH to a whole bunch of new people because they will feel more comfortable holding ETH on layer 2s and they can pay much less in terms of fees to get their rETH. Like they'll be able to buy it on Uniswap, on Optimism, Arbitrum. The fees will be like cents instead of many dollars. And for small holders, that is a huge percentage of their rewards. That it'll be a lot quicker for them to recoup that cost in the fee than it would have on mainnet. There's another piece of news. If you click on the Rocket Pool tweet, the username yesterday, it was also integrated onto ZK Sync Era. If you just scroll down,
Yes.
if you just scroll down one more, that's the article about it, but one more down, that's the tweet announcement for that as well. So now we're going on to more ZK layer 2s as well, and that will open up to even more people. So this is really exciting that ZK Sync is like the most hyped L2 right now because people are kind of airdrop farming it, but really good stuff happening there, definitely.
Absolutely. That's great. So our last headline for the week, and this has been one of your favorite topics, Aave emode.
Yeah.
So a couple things had to happen. Emode was passed, and then the cap on amount of rETH was increased from 20,000 to 40,000, and then it went live. Currently, it's filled. The 40,000 cap is filled with 28,800, 28,890 rETH. So in the few days since it went live, it's gained because it was right around 20,000 when it started. Now we're up almost 9,000. This is probably going to be filled. Probably a little. It took longer than you probably expected, Whack, but it will fill. I mean, just in a few days, it's almost halved the amount of the increase.
Yep.
So, your thoughts?
Okay, so this was something that I was really disappointed about by a couple of days ago because, like you said, I've been hyping this for weeks now, like months, maybe even. Like as soon as we got the first glimmers of rETH integration into Aave, after the Chainlink Oracle went live, I was like, this is the end goal. Like this is going to help Rocket Pool grow an astronomical amount. Like this is going to be really, really wonderful because it will let you boost your deposits in a really, really big way. So like you could deposit 1 ETH pretty much and mint 6, 7, 8 rETH worth of rETH because of that, because of the way that you kind of fold it. So I was super excited about this, like massively driving Rocket Pool adoption. Sadly, what has happened on the Aave side is that the interest that you pay for borrowing ETH right now is around 4%. And if you have a look at the rewards, like the base rewards for rETH right now are at around 4% also. So that, because there's not much of a difference between the interest you pay and the rewards you get, in some ways it's actually unprofitable. You'll have to go to like the ETH markets page to see what the rates are for that. But yeah, the Ethereum, like regular Ethereum borrowing rate, I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, for that, that's where the issue is. Like the gap between them is so small that it is like the Ethereum borrow rate is 4.36%. Can you see?
Yep.
Right at the bottom there. So that is actually higher than the rETH reward right now. So if you were to use one ETH and use that to mint 9 or 7 or 6 rETH, you would actually be losing money in fees instead of like boosting your rETH rewards, which is what we were hoping would happen. It once the rETH rewards go back up 5 or 6%, then utilizing this service kind of will make a lot more sense, or we will need the ETH interest rates to go down for it to make sense. So one of those two things will have to happen for us to get those numbers that I was hoping for. Just right now, it's just not a profitable strategy to do. So that's kind of where the disappointment lies. I'm actually surprised that we've still got 9,000 ETH coming into Aave, which is fantastic. I guess people are using it to borrow other things instead of ETH and like folding, but I don't think anyone is like actually using emode right now, sadly.
No. However, those rates, they fluctuate, right? The
Yeah,
APR for rETH is going to go up and down. The
yeah,
lending, the supply APR is going to go up and down. At some point, they converge where it will be profitable, and then this thing just it spins
flywheels.
like a money machine.
Exactly. So that there are a couple of things that we need to happen for that to happen. One would be a huge amount of ETH deposited into Aave. So then they'll have like an oversupply of ETH, which means the interest rates will come down. The second thing is we need another meme coin mania phase to happen, gas to hit 200 Gwei, whatever, like sustained things. So then we start getting more the just a couple of weeks ago, the rETH rewards were around 6%. So that would then kind of cover those differences. So both of those things happening at the same time would of course be the best case scenario, but
Right.
we'd have to see how that kind of like plays out into the, again, this, like as we hit 40k and then we're kind of at 40k, then the Aave risk people will vote to potentially increase that to 80k. So there'll always be kind of some amount there that we can play with, but it just will depend on favorable market conditions to be able to do that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So that concludes this week's weekly orbit. Of course, this is not financial advice, technical advice, tax advice, just a couple guys talking crypto.
Yeah.
And have a great week. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Make sure you click, you like and subscribe. And Whack, we will see you next week as well. Enjoy
Absolutely.
the beginning of summer.
Yeah, it's absolutely glorious here right now. The weather's been stunning, so
Yeah,
I've been
here
enjoying it
too.
every day. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks
All right.
everyone.
Bye-bye.